Hello students, in the first lecture we have discussed about what is biodiversity, and we also have gone through various aspects of importance of biodiversity. We also have seen the types of biodiversity, and in this lecture we are going to see approximate number of the species that is in India as well, on the earth as well. So let us see one by one the level of biodiversity in India as well, and throughout the global situation of the biodiversity. Now let us first discuss the global condition. So if you think about approximate number of the species which are present on the earth, according to International Union of Conservation of Nature, that is in 2004, they have estimated 1.5 million species are described so far. They are identified and classified so far, but there may be n number of the species which are still to be identified, still to be classified. So what can be the actual number of the species which can be present on the earth? So to estimate the number of species, Robert May have given the first idea. He estimated that about 7 million species, considering the species to be discovered in the tropic rainforests, that is only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far in that area. So based on that fact, keeping in the mind, he roughly calculated that about 7 million species can be possible to be present on the earth. Now if we differentiate between plants and animals, animals are more than 70% with respect to number of species, and plants including fungi are 22% of total number of the species which are present on the earth. Now most species, right? So most species reach taxonomical group amongst the animal is insect. So total number of species in the animal, if we calculate those and if we consider that amongst them 70% of the species are of insects. So out of every 10 animals, 7 are insects. That's the fact you are supposed to remember. Now what is the reason why insects are so abundant on the earth? While discussing the classification in standard 11, you might have remember that they are the member of phylum Arthropoda, which are the first organism to get the appendages. Walking leg, what do we say? Right? Joint leg, that is arthropoda. So when they have got the legs to walk, to move, they spread it freely onto the earth because there was no such other competitor, there was no such other enemy on the earth for them. So they have spreaded so hugely on the earth. So first reason for diversity of insects is this. Now second most important reason why insects are into that huge diversity is after the evolution of the animal, diversity of the animal after insects, that is whatsoever evolution, whatsoever way it is happening, it is most developed or it is furthermore developed than the insects, and they have dependent on insects for their food. So whatsoever animals are produced on the earth later on, they found to be enemy of insects till now, right? So even today, for example, if I talk about mammals, we kill insects whatsoever way they are encountered to us. So insects are enemy for all the rest of the species of animal which are present on the earth. So they want to survive in any case, in all the conditions, and that is why they need to diversify them, and that is the reason why insects are so many with the number of the species. So that's the fact you are supposed to keep in your mind. Now the number of fungi species is more than the combination or combined total of species of fish, amphibia, reptiles and mammals. That's also one of the most important fact to be remembered. So fungi are more than total number of the species of fish, amphibia, reptiles and mammals. So these are few facts to be remembered with respect to NEET examination. Do remember. And please take the screenshot of the slide. Fine. While discussing the biodiversity, we are not considering prokaryotic organisms or species. There are two main important rules why we are not considering them is: number one, conventional taxonomical methods are not at all suitable for identifying microbial species whatsoever. The taxonomical conditions and the methods what we have understood till now, chapter number 1 and 2 of standard 11, right? In that taxonomy is explained detail, right? So in detail whatsoever method of the classification we have understood is not suitable for identifying these microbial species. Second reason is many species are simply not culturable under laboratory condition. Very few species are adapted, right? So they are not culturable, so we cannot be able to find out their behavior or their morphological conditions or their metabolism. So it is hard to describe or identify the species of the prokaryotic. Majority of the prokaryotics are parasitic, and microscopic, and that's why they are not easy to culture in in vitro condition. So that's you are supposed to remember. Please take the screenshot of this slide. Now let us consider biodiversity in India after we have discussed the approximate value of the biodiversity globally. Now India, as far as biodiversity is concerning, it is one of the 12 mega diversity countries, right? So it is, you can say it is 12th in the number. So we are 12th with respect to biodiversity. Now one of the most important factor with respect to the area is only 2.5% of total world's land area is covered by India, but we are responsible for 8.1% of the species diversity, though we are having only 2.4% of the world land. So this is also noticeable aspect with respect to species diversity. Nearby 45,000 species of plant and twice, that is approximately 90,000 species of animals may be present on the land of India. Now if we apply Robert May's global estimate, India would have more than 1 lakh of the plant species and 3 lakhs of animal species. Ready? Till now we have 45, which is identified 45,000 species of plant, but it would be more than that, that is 1 lakh. And we may have identified 90,000 approximate species of animals, but it is possibility that we have 3 lakh of the animal species. So we have even huge aspect of having more species according to Robert May hypothesis. Ready? Please take the screenshot of this slide. Now one more very important aspect with respect to the biodiversity. Now diversifying the species or evolution of the species is definitely depending on the environmental factor which is suitable to that particular species or not. So how biodiversity has been profoundly spread on the earth, or how the species are distributed throughout the earth, that is known as patterns of biodiversity. As we know that any of the living organism which is present on the earth, they are adapted for particular type of atmosphere. So if living organisms are spreading from one place to the other, from one habitat to the other, if those species or those animals or those plants or those microorganisms are adapted or are getting adapted to that particular environment or habitat, then and then only it is the possibility of settling down to that particular place for them. So, adaptation plays a very important role with respect to their environmental condition. So, based on keeping that fact in the mind, we are about to study the pattern of biodiversity. Ready? So, first ever respective pattern of the biodiversity is based on latitudinal gradient. So, latitude is important to spreading the various number of the species on a particular region, right. So, species biodiversity decreases as we move from equator to the polar region. This is a fact which is related to the latitudinal gradient. Now, if we see the diagram which is given on your right side, right, this is the equator where you have more sunlight which is falling straight away. But if you are moving either towards northern region or towards southern region, number of species is getting decreased. That's what the outcome of research. Ready? Now, if I talk about the tropics, that is latitudinal range of 23.5 degree north to 23.5 degree south, they have more species than temperate or polar region. So, tropical region are what? They are found into the middle of equator or polar region. So, these are two main regions, 1 and 2, Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn are major region, main regions where number of species are found to be very large extent. Ready? This is the second important fact which is related to the biodiversity pattern. Now, let us consider the example which is proving this. For an example, Colombia, which is located near equator, has nearly 1400 species of bird near equator, that is into the tropical region. Ready? So, they have 1400 species of bird. Similarly, India, which is found on tropical latitude, have more than 1200 species of the bird. But if you consider New York, which is 41 degree north, which is found so far from tropical region, they have only 105 species on the earth. Ready? So, they are towards polar region, that is 41 degree north. Greenland, which is 71 degree north, more near to the polar region, have only 56 species of the bird. Right? So, if I talk about the region which is near to the equator, for example, this is the equator and North Pole is on the top. So this is the region which is 60° north. Now if I talk about first Colombia, so it is, for example, it is found to be the place which is near to the equator. They have 1400 species of the bird. For example, India, they have 1200 species on the earth. In the India. New York, which is 41°, maybe here. So it is having 105 species of the bird. And Greenland, which is 71° north, maybe here somewhere. So it is having only 56 species of the bird. So if you go towards northern region, northern pole, you can straightway find the decreasing number of the species, 1400, 1200, 100 and half of the 100, that is 56. So this is a proof of the fact which is described that species diversity decreases as far as you are moving either to the poles from equators. Fine. So please take the screenshot of the slide. Few basic fact about tropical rainforest. Ready? Fine. So tropical forest regions like Ecuador has up to 10 times as many as species of the vascular plants as forest of equal area into the temperate regions like Midwest of US. So it is showing the importance of tropical region. So it is so suitable so that species are more adaptable to those conditions. They have all the environmental conditions which are suiting towards the growth and reproduction of the species, which are the main reason for increased number within a particular area or habitat. So tropical area are not so hot or not so cold. So they are having a moderate condition which is suiting more for the life. So this is the basic fact even to be taken care within your mind when you are discussing about the patterns of the biodiversity. So please take the screenshot of this slide as well. Few more basic fact regarding to one of the most important tropical region known as Amazon forest or Amazon rainforest, which is found into the South American regions. It is definitely known as the lungs of the earth. It used to be very huge previously, but day by day it is found to be deforested and very little area is right now left over. But if I talk about the biodiversity of tropical Amazon forest, it is having very huge number of invertebrate. For example, if I talk about the number, it may be more than 1 lakh and 25,000 species of invertebrates. Very huge number. It may have more than 40,000 species of plant, which is in turn very huge in number. It may have 3,000 species of the fish, 1,300 species of the bird, 427 of each amphibians and mammals, and 378 species of reptiles. These are discovered species. But according to Robert May, if we say that we have discovered very little of the total number of the species which are present on the earth, there may be huge aspect that n number of more species may be available into the tropical rainforest of the Amazon. It is very harsh into the condition if we talk about Amazonian rainforest. That is why it is at all not favorable for a researcher to go into deep into the forest and make the estimate or find a new species. That is why that huge number of the species are still to be discovered, because it is very hard conditions which are found into the rainforest. It is not at all suitable for the researcher to be there and to have a research, because research is a very prolonged program, and definitely the conditions are not suiting for researcher. So please take the screenshot of this slide. Now, why the highest number of biodiversity is found into the tropical region? The arc of all the discussion what we have made is given here. Number one, they receive solar energy at the moderate level, which is contributing into the greater productivity. So if I talk about the equator, they are receiving the sunlight straight away and with great intensity. That may not be the favorable condition for greater productivity, but in tropical region, the amount of solar radiation and the intensity of solar radiation are so favorable for photosynthesis. So this is the first reason why they have great biodiversity. So if photosynthesis is more, number of plants are more, and if number of plants are more, then number of animals depending on them or microorganisms which are depending on plants and animals are more. That is why biodiversity is very huge into the number into the tropical regions. Reason number two is they provide relatively constant environment and less seasonal. So as far as their environmental condition is there, the average type of seasons remain constant. They have for example, if we consider, they have 3 seasons: summer, winter and monsoon. In all the seasons, they have a particular range of temperature or precipitation, and which used to be very constant. So adaptation accordingly for the animals or plants are very easy to develop without much changes into the nearest future. So those particular type of characteristic feature which are designed and developed remain constant throughout their longer period of the evolution, and that is why it is mentioned that they provide relatively constant environmental. But third number of the reason is tropical regions are having more evolutionary time. Ready? Now, what is this more evolutionary time? Due to very less possibility of temperature or environmental condition differences, it is a constant type of environment which is found into the tropical region. For an example, in past we have gone through so many different time zones, and so many times we have also gone through the ice age. Again, that ice age passed through, and normal condition or favorable condition is again established into the ecosystem. So if I talk about the ice age, the effect of ice age is more into the polar regions, and as far as from polar region to equator we are moving, that effect of ice age is falling down. While reaching into the tropical regions, it is becoming very weak, so that it is having very hardly, it is affecting very hardly to the species which are found into the tropical regions. So they are remaining undisturbed even into the ice ages, and that is the key of success for them, that they had a more time of evolution. So without getting change from the time they have evolved onto the earth, so they are very safe into the evolution time. That is the third and most important reason why we have most number of species into the tropical region. Now if I talk about equator, it is also undisturbed by the course of evolutionary time, but again the main reason for less biodiversity is straight sunlight, which is not favoring the productivity. So these are the three main reasons why biodiversity is highest into the tropical region. Please take the screenshot of the slide. Second pattern of biodiversity. First we have seen about the species area relationship and the tropical region, the polar region or equator region. So geographical distribution we have seen, and second is the species area relationship. Now if I talk about species area relationship, it is straightway depending on the area what you are studying with reference to biodiversity, and that is why it is considered as species area relationship. The German naturalist and geographer named Alexander von Humboldt observed study in South American jungle that within a region species richness, mind it well, increased with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. For example, if I am talking or if I am studying a particular species biodiversity, so that richness of a particular species in a particular area number of the species in a particular area is increasing when I increase the area of exploration. So, if suppose I have explored the area of for example 100 kilometers by 100 kilometer, and if I increase that area up to 200 kilometers by 200 kilometers, then definitely number of species or richness of the species is going to be increased. But it is increasing only up to a certain limit. Why? Because climatic condition is playing a most important role into that. After a certain you can say after, if you reach up to certain distance of a particular area, then your environmental condition will be different than the first one. So, this plays an important role in diversification of the number of the species. So, up to certain limit only this increment of the number of the species will be found. So, this is one of the second number most important feature or pattern of the biodiversity. So, the relationship between species richness and area for a wide variety of the taxa turns out to be rectangular hyperbola. So, he has plotted a graph to understand this relationship, right. So, species, number of species and area. When he plotted the graph, please take the screenshot. It is found to be rectangular hyperbola, which can be easily seen into the diagram. So, if you see these rectangular hyperbola, so in your x-axis you have your area, and on y-axis you have number of species. So, as you increase the area, your species is getting increased. So, always it used to be have this kind of sigmoid curve as a graph, and it is actually denoted or calculated by a particular formula S, which is richness of the species, by C A raised to Z, where C is your y-intercept, A is your area, and Z is a slope of the line or regression coefficient. And these graphical representation is calculated by this formula. You are supposed to just remember the formula. Now, if you want to make a simple line out of these sigmoid curve, it is known as Z line. So, when the formula is evaluated by the log, right. So, in logarithm scale, when you calculate that, it is going to form a particular specific line which is known as Z line, and it is going to represent the richness of the species in a particular area. So, calculating Z line is unique feature to identify the species richness. How and why? Let us talk about that. Ready? Fine. So, on a scale of logarithm, the relationship is straight line, which is described as log s is equal to log c plus z log a. We have already discussed about that formulation of z line. So, there S is species richness, A is area, Z is regression coefficient, and C is your y-intercept. So, if you calculate, take reading and calculate based on the formula given here, you have a particular number, and based on the particular number you can find the richness of the species of a particular area. For an example, the fact which is given here is about the value of z line generally found to be between the range of 0.1 to 0.2. So, that is a general range of z line, but we also have to consider that, please take the screenshot. We also have to consider that the range of the species between 0.1 to 0.2 is used to be with a very little, very small area of a particular habitat, that is a particular ecosystem. But when I am talking about a very large area, not a small area, not a particular ecosystem, but for example entire continent or entire earth for an example, then the slope of line, that is z line, z value goes as high as 0.6 to 1.2. So, please do remember and take care that z line value is moderate or less into small area, and z line value is high when you increases the area. So, large area contains large value of z line, that is 0.6 to 1.2, but very small area or one ecosystem, single ecosystem, if when we are considering and calculate, then z rekha or z line is valued between between the range of 0.1 to 0.2. For example, the frugivorous bird and mammals into the tropical forest of different continents, if we calculate those, then the slope goes to 1.15. Why? Because you are calculating at par to a single continent. So, you are considering frugivorous birds or mammals into various continents, and that is why area is very large, and that is why value of this slope or z value is very high. Now, frugivorous birds are fruit eating birds. Ready? Example or photograph which is given there, you can consider that. Ready? Please take the screenshot. Now, loss of the biodiversity we are discussing into the next lecture. So, we have ended with the pattern of the biodiversity in this area, and we will be continuing to the next lecture by the next topic named loss of the biodiversity. So, till then, have a nice time and take care.